And to start the discussion, I'll turn it over to MP Rempel-Garner for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'll direct my questions to Mr. Sinomani from RBC. Is it true that Interac charges between 6 cents and 43 cents per Interac e-transfer sent to your banks for facilitating the service, a tiered model depending on the volume of annual transactions to your institution?
Thank you for the question. The customers who use e-transfers use it free of cost. Interac.
I'm asking how much they charge you. So the fee schedule I've seen is a tiered model that is between 6 cents and 43 cents, depending on volume. Is that about right?
Interac, as a service provider for e-transfers, would charge every institution. And I'm not sure of the exact method or mechanism of the pricing, but they would charge. They would have a charge.
Well, how is it that you don't know? You're the head of banking for RBC, or like card services and payments for RBC, and you're on Interac's board. So maybe we'll just start by saying it is a tiered service or a tiered pricing model, right? And is 43 cents for the highest tier? Is that like, let's work with that? Is that about right?
I wouldn't know that, ma'am. What I would be aware of is that any service like this, which has volumes involved, would have a system where institution passing on large volumes would have a better unit cost associated with providing large volumes to the service provider.
There. So according to your website, you charge clients approximately $1, between $1 and $1.50, depending on their plan, and if they go over their plan for the number of transactions for e-transfers. Is that right? It would be, you'd be charging a client between $1 and $1.50, depending on their plan, if they were on a pay-for-use plan or if they went over their prescribed amounts?
We have various plans, but all e-transfers that we provide for our customers are free of charge. But we do have various plans on accounts that are provided to our customers that can range.
So where I'm going with this is I've seen a fee schedule that shows that at the best, or the most expensive, Interac is charging you 43 cents a transaction, but you're charging your clients anywhere between $1 and $1.50 a transaction. So that's obviously a big profit margin. Interac is owned by you and the other banks. So you're making profit off of the e-transfer fee that you're charging to your clients, and Interac is making money off of what you're paying them. And you just admitted that there is a tiered pricing model. Now, the tiered pricing model that I've seen really charges a lot more to smaller institutions. So whereas you might be paying 6 cents, that's what I've seen for a transaction, a smaller institution might be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 43 cents. Has the competition commissioner ever asked Interac or any of your banks why this is?
Well, remember, a couple of things I would just mention. Any processing cost associated with volumes, whether it is credit cards processing or debit cards or e-transfers or any mechanism like that, would have mechanisms which go through volume-based pricing. And we have it, even if a company is printing statements or whether it's processing debit or credit or whatever
just
transactions.
In terms of like this being a very highly regulated industry with the federal government, I'm just curious because it would be fair to say that Interac is the dominant. It's the dominant player for e-transfers in Canada, right? Like that's a fair
assessment. You're right. Interac is the dominant. So is the main player. We wouldn't be interfering in their decisions on pricing, or they're an independent entity and have.
What I'm trying to say is we're looking at. Thank you. We're looking at fees here on financial transactions, and the big banks own Interac, and Interac, per your admission, says that it charges a volume discount to the big banks. Interac is the dominant player in e-transfers. So don't you think that it is a little sus that the Competition Commissioner has never looked into the fact that banks, you guys would not be motivated to move to a flat rate. You would not be motivated to look for ways to enhance competition in the e-transfer business, like to reduce Interac's dominance. So I guess maybe a very simple question, is this something that the Competition Commissioner should be looking into?
Interac is an independent entity with an independent board and independent board members also involved. And as an independent entity having a commercial service in this market, I think they would be making commercial decisions based on what they see in the market as the right thing for them to do and using commercial benchmarks and what they see across the globe.
I will just close with this. One of the stats that I got was that Interac reported in 2022 alone 1.7 billion e-transfers. So when you think about the profit, even on a low volume rate, and then combine it with the profit that your banks might be making off of it, and I'm a conservative, I'm all for profit, but given that per your admission, Interac is the dominant player in this, do you not think that this committee should be recommending that the Competition Commissioner look at, per your admission, a volume-based pricing schedule for e-transfers that might price A, competitors out of the market, and B, might have a detrimental impact on smaller financial institutions?
E-transfer is a very innovative payment mechanism, and as Canadians, we're all proud of what Interac has managed to do, and this has been one of the first payment mechanisms globally to introduce person-to-person transfers. And I think Interac would be taking the right commercial decisions and over time introducing efficiencies into this market.
I rest my case. Thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Rempel-Garner. Je passerai la parole maintenant à Monsieur Aria pour 6 minutes.
Thank you very
Chair.
much, Mr. Arya, for 6 minutes.
Chair, one of the witnesses mentioned it's a highly regulated industry. But when you look at the credit portfolio of all the five major banks who are here today, 30 to 40% of their lending is to residential real estate market. When we include commercial real estate, it's sometimes about over 50%. But most of it is to refinancing existing stock, not creating new housing units. Maybe I think we should bring in the credit guidance so that we can mandate banks to give at least 10 to 20% to creating new capital stock, either in real estate or in small-scale manufacturing, which I believe is required with the onshoring, nearshoring, and self-reliance that is going up. Anyway, coming to today's issue, I got two particular questions to all. One is that we are a developed country. We are a technologically advanced country. But why is that we are backward when it comes to global south countries, developing countries, who have got a faster real-time payment system? Personally, if I have to transfer from my personal bank, from one bank in Nepean to another bank in Nepean, say about $10,000, it takes over a week time. Whereas in some global south countries, it can be done in a matter of seconds. I wonder why is that? So my question I'll start with the Bank of Montreal, Ms. Douglas. Why is that our technology solutions are so backward that I can't transfer money instantly between my accounts within Canada in the same area? That's number one. Anyway, let's start with that. Then I can come to the other points.
Thank you very much for the question. This area is something that I actually don't work directly on, but I can tell you that.
Because we have got limited time, I will talk to Ms. Ferry of CIBC.
Okay.
Hi, thank you for the question. I'm the credit card executive at CIBC, and I also don't work on the real-time payment.
Mr. Siromani of Royal Bank, at least you are in payments. Maybe you can answer this.
I'll try my best, honorary member. I believe you asked the question: why is Canada's maybe lesser innovative in payments? I would actually point out to a number of innovations that Canada has made.
No, I'm not talking about innovations, Mr. Siromani. I'm specifically asking a simple thing. A developing country, a global south country, There we can transfer money from one bank to the other in a matter of seconds, where here in my riding of Nepean, between two of my accounts in two different banks, it takes a week for me to transfer, say, $10,000. So why is that?
Remember, if there are options available to Canadians if you use e-transfer, for example, in our
It
bank.
is $3,000, Mr. Siromani. I'm talking about $10,000 here.
We actually have increased limits to some of our customers to $10,000, and each of these things have a different evolution in different markets. Remember,
I'm sorry, Mr. Siromani. Evolution. We are the most advanced. I think the next building from where we are sitting, the Bank of Montreal, was set up, I think, way back in 1851, if I remember rightly. Maybe Ms. McDonald of Scotiabank can answer this.
Thank you for the question. I think it represents the complexity and the maturity of the Canadian market, and that to protect the safety and security of the financial system, I think we're collectively moving prudently.
The complexity of Canadian market, is it much more complex from a global south country, developing country, with much huger population, with low literacy? If they can implement and operate it, why can't we?
I think we're collectively striving for that. I think we're operating in an environment which has legacy infrastructure that we're trying to modernize collectively to make sure that we do it thoughtfully, taking into consideration the many stakeholders who are participating.
Disrespect to you, but modernization, how many years it has to take? The payments Canada has been set up, and we still don't have the real-time payment system. And then Ms. McKee of TD Bank, whether you have answer to my question. Still I have not got the right answer.
Yes, and thank you for the question. Neither open banking nor the real-time rail are issues that fall under my direct responsibility at TD.
Maybe, Chair, next time we should ask the chief executive officers of all these banks to come in so that at least they will have the answers, because whenever we get the other executives, they can always say that that is not in my direct responsibility and walk away from there. Again, when I think somebody said that interchange fee, is not set up by the banks, it's set up by the credit card companies. So as bankers, I want to ask every one of you, do you have any, I guess you don't have any objection if we cap the interchange fee at, say, 0.3% as done by Australia or 0.5% as done by European Union? Since nobody's answering, maybe I should go back again. Ms. Douglas, sorry, you're number one on my list, so you have to answer it.
Sorry about that. First of all, thank you for the question. Those other markets are quite different from Canada, so that's number one. And I don't want to speak in hypotheticals, scenarios if things are capped, but what I can tell you is that the credit card business is a very complex business and a very expensive business to run. We have a long list of costs to run it.
The same complexity is there even in European Union and Australia. Australia, in many ways, not much different from Canada in terms of the population, etc. So why it is not complex for you guys there in Europe or in Australia and still make money? That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong in making money, but why is it that you can earn money there? But when it comes to Canada, why? The Canadian consumers are fleeced, in my opinion.
As I said, it's an expensive business that we run, and so we've got a lot of costs that we have to cover, whether it's fraud, credit losses, customer service, digital, plastics. It can go on and on. So it's an expensive business for us to run.
Okay, thank you very much, MP Aria. Je passerai maintenant la parole à Monsieur Savard-Tremblay pour 6 minutes.
Merci, Mr. Savard-Tremblay for 6 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello to everyone. Thank you for the witnesses for your presentation. I would like, Madame Ferry, could you briefly tell us how high are the interchange fees on your credit cards?
Sound over the translation.
Thank you for the question. Interchange fees are set by the payment networks, and available on their website and available for you to look at the various interchange rates there.
Oui. Donc là, vous n'avez pas l'information.
So you don't have the information to share with us?
I don't. I'd have to direct you to the Visa and MasterCard websites for that information. It's quite detailed.
Même question pour
same question for Mr. Siromani, please. Could you tell us briefly how high are the interchange fees for your credit cards?
As Ms. Diane pointed out, these are set by the networks, Visa and MasterCard, and they have a schedule of fees in their website, and it's publicly available.
Je vous demanderais à tous les deux, en fait, est-ce que ces
So
frais-là,
to all of you, are
sont
these
différenciés
fees
selon la
differentiated
générosité des programmes de récompense
based on
ou il n'y a pas d'impact
the
là-dessus?
rewards programs or not at all?
Peut-être, M. Savard-Tremblay, diriger votre question. Je sais
Oui,
pas
en fait, je l'ai dirigé. Les
Monsieur
deux personnes à qui
Savard-Tremblay.
j'ai posé la
I directed my
question
questions
initialement,
to the two persons, to Mr. Siromani and Ms. Ferry, as mentioned.
Honorable member, I think the way to look at cards and is both on the revenues and the cost side. There are various ways to kind of, the components of the revenues, including fees and including interest charges and including, components, other components. And on the cost side, as one of my colleagues mentioned earlier, there are a variety of cost lines, including, processing fees, network fees, fraud losses, Apple Pay transaction fees, and the embedded benefits we offer the various credit cards, like the members, my peers earlier talked about, infrastructure costs, technology costs, and customer support, and the innovation we do on cards.
Madame Ferry, maintenant, s'il vous plaît.
Ms. Ferry, over to you, please.
Thank you for the question. I would point you again back to the Visa and MasterCard interchange schedules, which are available publicly, which will tell you all the ways in which those fees are charged, calculated, and the basis for those. So that's what I would say for that.
Donc, c'est une information qui vous échappe présentement.
So you currently have that information, I guess. So we know, and for now, my next question is still directed to you both. We know that the most costly credit cards to traders are those that offer them the highest reward plans. And very often, these are cards that are owned by richer persons and who are richer than traders. And given that they charge the same amount to all clients for the same purchases, do you agree that those who are less privileged indirectly fund the rewards programs of the of the more privileged people?
Oui, toujours pour vous, Madame Ferry et Monsieur Siromani.
Still for you, Ms. Ferry and Mr. Siromani. Questions are addressed to you.
So could you repeat the question, please?
OK, bien, c'est parce qu'elle est longue en plus, puis Monsieur le Président.
The question is long as well, Mr. Chair. If I mentioned from the outside that my question is addressed to two people, I don't see the point repeating the question. Well, I'm going to be generous with my time, with your time. So we know that the costlier credit cards for customers are those that offer the more generous rewards plans. However, these cards are often owned by more privileged members of our society. Now, given that traders charge the same amount to all customers for the same purchases, do you now agree that the less privileged members of the society indirectly subsidize these rewards programs for the richer people?
Yeah, I would say I'm not here to comment. I'm here as a credit card executive, but I'm not here to comment on how merchants choose to allocate the cost of accepting payments amongst the the customers that are shopping in their store. Merchants have choices. They can choose to accept whatever payment methods they want, cash, debit, or credit. They can choose which payment networks to accept, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, others. And I'm not here to comment, or I can't comment on how they choose to distribute the costs of accepting the payments they choose to accept.
Monsieur Siromani, maintenant, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you for
Mr.
the question,
Siromani.
Remember, one is by accepting cards, like we said before, there's a lot of benefits to merchants, whether it's the fast guaranteed payment, not having to do a store credit, or the ability to accept credit without worrying about the creditworthiness of customers, increased sales, expanded markets online, etc. So there's a variety of benefits that the merchants get. And on the other hand, we have, like I said in my opening remarks earlier, value, choice, and convenience for the customer. We provide a variety of choice for our Canadian customers, where they can choose the type of card they want that best fits their needs and that they best understand. So I think between both of them, they benefit by having choice, and the merchants also benefit by having the right, ability to have the right payment mechanisms.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Massé, maintenant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Massé.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the witnesses to be here. Over the past 5 years, Canada's major banks have seen consistently higher profit margins, largely driven by interest from credit card products, which often carry interest rates around 19.9% or higher. For example, by 2022, the combined net income for Canada's 6 largest banks reached $60.7 billion, with $102 billion from net interest income. Credit producers like credit products like credit cards play a significant role in the earnings as higher interest rates persist despite the broader lower interest rate environment. Banks have also benefited from several favorable conditions, including minimal defaults due to pandemic-related federal aid and low operational costs. In fact, loan loss reserves funds set aside to cover potential loan defaults were largely released as fewer Canadians defaulted than anticipated, boosting profits further. The strong financial performance led to increased dividends and substantial executive bonuses, but did not translate into lower interest rates for the consumers. So my question is to anyone on the panel, would you like to contest any of that? Okay, then I'll just move on to the next. And it will be based upon that. To Ms. McKee, why is it then that banks require and credit cards require a 20% interest rate generally for their products? There are some other products that are available at lower interest rates, but they generally also come with more difficulty to acquire for consumers or less benefits elsewhere. Why 20% is always consistent, despite even the Bank of Canada just recently lowering its rate? Why would credit cards not have a lower rate from that as well?
Thank you for the question. I think it's important to note that we have a variety of cards that are available, including credit cards with lower rates and cards that have no fee or low fees. We want all of our customers to be using products.
So I just specifically really want to know about why 20% is even necessary in a business model when there doesn't seem to be that risk level that requires that.
As an issuer of credit cards, we're focused on designing products that resonate with Canadian customers and meet their needs and expectations. And our goal is always to offer competitive products and services that meet our customers' needs while remaining.
Do you think your customers need a
20%
20% interest rate of compounding when Canadian taxpayers did support financially the banks during a number of different issues, and on top of that, interest rates are lower? So why is it required for your bank and your credit card to have a credit card even in your system that's at 20%? What's the reason for the 20%? And can you share with us the profile of that 20%? I suspect the 20% in that are actually probably lower on the income scale than others that have a reduced credit card fee from that for other reasons. That's generally what consumer markets say. So why is it 20% required?
Yeah, I think a credit card as an unsecured form of credit, that's only one of the factors that we need to think about when considering an individual card type, right? You also have to think about the benefits, the rewards, the fees, and other attributes of those products. Like we'd have to consider all of those aspects, as well as whether Canadians are, paying their monthly balances, in which case customers pay no monthly interest.
So would you then contest that you're not making significant, if not record profits off the model right now? And why would you not lower your rate when the Bank of Canada rate for borrowing has just been lowered as well? Why is there no consistency there?
Again, it's important to note that, we have a variety of cards that are available for customers to choose from. If they prefer a lower rate, maybe fewer benefits or rewards, those cards are available, as well as those with no fee or low fees. So what's important to us is to provide a lot of choice and a breadth of offering.
So on those choices, do you have any public data or information about who is your 20% customers and who are maybe your 9% customers or the ones that pay into a fee? I know some of those cards that you offer require payments or other type of compromises by the consumer or has an income level that's higher. So do you have a model in terms of who, or do you have data about who has what credit cards from TD Bank, for example?
I think it's a wide array of customers, depending on demographic. It's really down to customer choice. We offer more than 15 different products, all constructed very differently. It's really about designing products that resonate with Canadian customers.
That doesn't really, that doesn't answer any of the questions really on that. I mean, I'll move over maybe to the Royal Bank of Canada. I started my discussion here. More other income that's come in data-wise, or data from income received from the banks has come in. Why is it that rates still don't reflect, again, anything with the Bank of Canada for credit cards? Like, why do you guys cover a 20% interest rate on customers? I'd walk into a bank anywhere and hey, do you want 20%? People aren't just snapping that up. They're taking it because they have to. Who's asking for these 20% in your customer base?
Honourable Member, thank you for the question. I would, in the lines of my colleague, Ms. McKee, we offer different types of products, including low-rate products, low variable rate products. For example, RBC lowered the prime rate immediately after the Bank of Canada.
Why do you need one at 20% when I don't know anybody out there that wants a 20% credit card? They're stuck with a 20% credit card, and they're also mostly the people that can't afford to pay a monthly fee or an annual fee, or they're giving up other point systems. But who out there wants a 20% fee, and how can you justify a 20% interest rate? What's in your business model that's so poorly designed, requires subsidization so significantly from people at 20%?
We provide products according to what customers want in terms of their choice. We provide value according to that, according to what they want, and the convenience. So, the benefits of credit cards for customers, whether it's access to unsecured credit, interest-free credit from the time of purchase till the end of the billing period. 70% of Canadians pay their credit card balance in full. For them, the interest rate is zero. Instant certainty of payments for merchants. A lot of rewards and benefits such as air travel points, car insurance, damage insurance, extended warranty programs. So I think, the answer to your question, Honourable Member, is that we provide the choice to our customers and we educate them about the choice and convenience available.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Padzur, la parole est à vous pour 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Padzur. Over to you for 5 minutes.
I'm just going to kind of go rapid fire through all the different banks here. BMO, what is your current low-cost interest rate card?
Hi there. Thank you for the question. I believe it's 13.99%.
Okay, thanks. RBC, what's your low-cost interest rate?
We have a couple. One is 12.99%, and there is another one which is connected to our prime rates, Prime Plus. So that could vary according to the prime rate.
Okay, Scotiabank, what's your low cost?
We have a $12.99 and a $13.99.
Okay, BMO.
Sorry, I already answered.
Oh, sorry. I meant CIBC. Sorry.
Hi, our rate is 13.99.
Okay, and then TD, what's yours?
12.99.
Okay, nice. So that's actually gone gone down. It was 13.9 when I looked online. So if it's 12.99, I must have missed something. So I just note that all of you are within a percentage point of each other. When I looked at what your various travel cards are worth, every single one of you was 20.99%. And when you look historically, there was a gap between credit card rates and interest rates that was 2% in the 80s. It was only 2%. Do you guys know what that gap is today? RBC maybe. Do you know what that is? Do you know what the gap is today between your high interest rate cards and what the going interest rate is today?
Henri, remember, I would characterize, I mean, the prime rate today is 5.95%, but I would characterize this as, in terms of the benefits that the customers get. There are a variety of benefits.
Just the number, please. What's that percentage? What's the difference in percentage between the two?
6 and 20, you mean? Yeah, it's about 14%, which takes into account all the different costs and all the different benefits that we just went through.
With your 20.99% card, okay? What's the gap between that card and the prime interest rate? What's that gap? Do you know what the number is?
It's based on the type of card and the type of rate.
I know, and I'm asking you specifically about the 20.99% rate on your travel card, because that's the most popular card that most people would get, would be the travel card. So that's a pretty common one, just what everybody has one. So what's the difference in the interest rate on that travel card and what the prime rate is for interest?
Remember, I think we would be, simplifying the business model greatly by just comparing the prime rate and the interest rate charged on a card, because so many factors go into defining that business model. If it's a simple mathematical calculation, it is 20.99 minus 5.95. It's about 15%. But that doesn't take into account. Okay, so there we go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The reason why I'm saying that is because, again, when you compare all of the different cards that everybody offers, it's all the exact same. The differences between each and every single card that's out there is basically nothing. The only difference that it's going to come down to a consumer is who are you already doing your day-to-day banking with. And that's generally who people are going to get their cards from. Sometimes people will vary from, or they'll go to a different institution, but it simplifies making your payments if you're at the same bank. So really, at the end of the day, I've heard a lot of you talk about the different choices and the great options that are out there. It's all the exact same. There is no real incentive to choose between all the different cards. The competition is actually quite false. There's 5 of you here today, but there is no competition. So what is preventing one of you from saying, you know what, our travel card is going to be, pick a number, 12%. What's stopping you from doing that? Anybody? Let's go with RBC. Back to RBC.
We would have to, like I said earlier on, remember, it is a complex business model and it'll be simplifying it too great by just taking a particular interest rate and saying, why not? It's like I said, the benefits to customers are varied. The choice given to them is varied, and the costs associated with those choices are varied. So there will have to be differential interest rates and differential costs in the marketplace, which we provide. And there's a choice to the customer, and the value and convenience that we provide befits that choice, and it's fit for purpose.
I'd just like to ask, I'm just going to pick one other one here. Let's just say TD. I want to extend the same question to you. What is stopping you from offering, say, 12% on your travel card, given that all the different random perks and benefits that all the different cards have are virtually identical? What is stopping you from just saying, you know what, to get more people on our card, we're going to go 12% instead of 20%? What's stopping you from doing that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think as an issuer of credit cards, we're designing products that resonate with Canadian customers and meet their needs and expectations. And I would say that it's a highly competitive market in Canada, so it would be expected that offerings would be similar. And the benefits and rewards offerings are an example of an opportunity we have to differentiate amongst each other.
Thanks. Merci, Monsieur Padier. Monsieur Turnbull.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to the
Mr.
witnesses.
Turnbull.
I note that one of the witnesses earlier, and I can't remember which one, said it was an expensive business that you run. I'm sort of interested in understanding extending credit to your customers is certainly a service, but I want to know how profitable it is for each one of you. Could each one of you remark on what the profit is that your financial institution makes off offering credit card services to your clients? So I'll start with Ms. Douglas from Bank of Montreal.
Hi, thank you very much for the question. As you know, we have quarterly results that are public, and BMO doesn't actually report credit card profitability down to that granular level, so I wouldn't be able to.
Okay, Ms. Douglas, I'm not going to let you go on if you don't have an answer. I want to move on because I have limited time, so I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Ms. Furry from CIBC.
Thank you for the question. Revenue and net income from our credit card businesses are included in total revenue and net income for our personal and business banking business unit. It is not individually disclosed, which is consistent.
Okay, so no breakdown is provided. Mr. Siromani, how about you for RBC? Is it the same answer? If it is, we'll just move on.
Yes, honorary member, it is the same answer.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes, honorary member, it is the same answer.
And Ms. McKee?
Yes, same answer.
Okay, so nobody knows how much money they make or are not willing to disclose how much money you make off your credit card services, which is more the truth, I would say. So, but it is highly profitable, is it not? I'm going to assume that the answer is yes. So what is the justification for the interchange fees? So I'm asking this, I well know that the credit card companies have stated that the banks are essentially responsible for setting the fees. You guys say that you're not responsible, that they're responsible for setting the fees. It may be both of you. I note that also the banks all own their own payment processors. I've got that in my briefing note here. So what percentage of the interchange fees do your banks get to set? Can you please explain that? Mr. Siromani, I'm going to go to you first.
Honorary member, we don't set interchange fees. It is set by the networks. In terms of, for example, the one thing I would add is the processing fees that you said. Those are, we do incur those processing fees. In addition to that, we incur network fees, fraud losses, the cost of all the benefits that we provide the cards, Apple Pay transaction fees, IT and infrastructure costs, customer support and innovation costs.
So is it true that you're only a receiver of fees and that you set no portion of the interchange fees and you do not collect any fees for the transactions through the credit card services that you offer? Mr. Siromani, I'm going to you because I'm just following up on what you said.
The interchange fees are set by the credit card networks. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So your only cost recovery then on those fees is the interest rate on the credit that you're offering to your clients. Is that correct? How are you recovering all of those fees if you only receive those fees that are set by the credit card companies? Then you're a payer of those fees. Is that correct? And you don't set any portion of it yourself?
We don't pay interchange fees. The credit card companies set those interchange fees. We have some revenues of those fees, but we have a variety of costs associated with those fees.
So that's what I'm asking. What are the revenues that you're getting from those fees? Can you explain that to us at the committee here, please?
It is not possible for me to break down the revenues associated with those fees, honorary member.
Okay, but we know your business is highly profitable, offering credit to your customers, so you must be making money on the fees and the interest rate that you're charging for offering credit. So we know that. I mean, that's common sense. Like, I don't think anyone here would disagree that the banks are making considerable money from offering credit card services to their clients. So people have said it's an expensive business. I'm trying to understand the cost structure and how you're involved in setting those interchange fees. If you both run a payment processor and you're the issuer of the credit card, and we know that you're running a highly profitable business, like, why are you guys hiding from the very fees that you're getting to set for the consumer? Like, just be clear and consistent about it. Mr. Shiramani, I'm going back to you. I would like to ask all the witnesses, but I'm limited on my time, so I'm going back to you.
Again, the interchange fees are not set by us, it's set by the networks. It is commercially sensitive information, like all of us said, to kind of divulge the full revenues associated with credit cards. And if you're trying to understand the model better on Remember, we get fees and interest income. Against that, we have a variety of costs, including fraud losses, processing fees, network fees, Apple Pay transaction fees, the cost of benefits, IT and infrastructure costs, customer support, and the innovation costs we have to bear.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur. Monsieur Turnbull, Monsieur Savard-Tremblay, la parole est à vous.
Thank you, Mr. Tremblay, Savard-Tremblay. Okay, I will continue with you, Mr. Shiramani. We've had several witnesses tell us that there is a ceiling of interchange fees, and this is going to be fees that might be able to increase other fees. Would you be in agreement with this?
Sorry, Honorary Member, I could not understand that question. Could you please, just maybe once more or clarify a little bit?
Alors, parfait, je répète, Monsieur le Président, et on me demande de répéter.
Donc, repeat. So can you give me my time? So several people, the fintechs, told us that there's a ceiling in the interchange fees. Mr. President.
Between both the French language and the English language, and this may be what's confusing our witnesses. The English language comes, I hear the shadow, but I also hear both languages when I'm hearing the translation. I don't know if anybody else is receiving that.
Est-ce que c'est similaire? Je regarde Monsieur Perkins.
Is this the case for you? I'm looking to see if anybody else has the same problem. Do we have an overlap between the floor and the interpreter? No, nobody else seems to have this problem. Do you hear the translation at this time?
Yes.
Is it working? Do you hear an echo by any chance?
There is a little bit of an echo, but I'm able to understand the question.
Parfait. Puis inquiétez-vous pas, Monsieur Savard-Tremblay, je vous laisse toujours un peu plus.
And do not worry, Mr. Savard-Tremblay. I'll always give you a little bit more time because I know that it takes longer to translate because of the. Don't worry about repeating the question. I take this into consideration. But we have 5 national banks that offer services, and 25% to 25% of the Canadian population at least. And there has not been one word said in French today. Not anybody has brought in a French member of their team to express themselves in front of this committee in French. And I do find myself rather surprised by this. I support what you are saying, Mr. Chairman, absolutely. So I'll ask my question again. So several speakers, especially the fintechs, have told us that there is a ceiling as to these fees, which are gotten around by the companies. Do you agree with this statement that they get around those fees, the banks?
No, I'm not aware of any getting around by the banks on Remember.
Bon, en fait, on est au conditionnel, mais est-ce que vous pouvez nous énumérer
I was speaking conditionally, but can you enumerate the totality of the different fees that are issued when a transaction happens?
when a transaction happens, it can differ in different places. It can be an online transaction. It can be a transaction at a store. It can be a transaction at a big store, a small store, by a different type of card. It can be a tap. It can be various methods and forms of payment. Remember, it depends on what kind of a transaction it is. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what it is. It depends on the transaction. It depends on the form of payment. It depends on the mode of payment and where it is made. It could be a domestic transaction. It could be a cross-border transaction.
Thank you, Mr. Savard-Tremblay. Now, Mr. Massé, the floor is yours.
Remember, I'm not in a position to talk for our investor relations and broader enterprise. It would have ramifications, financial ramifications, and how we divulge information to the investor community, and I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But I'm sure there would be some comments from them.
So the floor is yours, Mr. Généreux. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for appearing. Madam Douglas from the BMO, I'm going to start with you. I have a small business, and we have 5 departments in our small business, and we can identify in each one of them what is profitable and what is not. And so what generates profits and what does not, and then we adjust accordingly to the price. I imagine it's the same thing for banks. So everybody today said that they did not know how much money credit cards generated. They couldn't give it. They couldn't extract it from the general figures. I find this really rather odd. I find it quite hard to believe that you cannot give me such a simple answer as to what kind of profits you're generating once you have deducted the expenses in order to generate this. How can you not give this? And BMO can't give it, and none of the other banks can give it. How can you not explain that these figures are not available?
Thank you very much for the question. We do, as a bank, disclose many metrics on a quarterly basis that are public. We just, our policy is not to disclose down to that granular level to the public.
And what is the reason for this?
Well, from a competitive perspective, like I said, I'd be happy to send you our last quarterly results and our annual report. You'll see there's a myriad of metrics that we do disclose, but that's a particular one. We usually don't go from a product perspective down to that level. Our numbers are found within our division, the personal and business banking.
But at that point, and I'm asking all the witnesses, can you, at that point, and Madam Douglas may answer to everybody, but for all I know, you all have the same policy. Could you give this committee the figures that come out of your general numbers? This is an independent committee, from what I know, and I think we are capable of working around these figures in a very confidential manner so that we can understand the differences between the revenues, the profits, and the fees. Can you possibly give these numbers to the committee? And it's not that we would actually be extracting these figures ourselves, of course. Madam Douglas, I'm addressing you right now.
As I mentioned, we have a certain policy for disclosures, and so I wouldn't be able to commit to your request in this forum today.
What about you, Mrs. Ferry? Would you be able to furnish us these figures from CIBC?
I am not able to provide those. As I mentioned earlier, the numbers related to our credit card business are not individually disclosed, which is consistent across the industry.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to understand why you cannot give us these figures or divulge what these figures are. Our interest is not to share this information, of course. We just want to be able to evaluate the profitability because, according to what we feel might be excessive because if, like my colleague from the NDP said, banks in Canada are making $67 million a year, billion dollars a year. So I imagine that credit cards within that amount represent a large part of the reason the banks are profitable. So it would be nice for the committee to be able to get this information and to understand where it fits in to the figures. So I ask the committee this. So I would ask all of the witnesses who are here present to provide the committee with disclosed with this information not blacked out, of course. Mr. Généreux, I think there's a consensus around the table to have this sort of information, and we can ask the witnesses formally to provide us with this information. Thank you very much. I will now give the floor to Mr. Gaillard, who is here virtually.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for appearing. I just got a message saying my internet connection is unstable. I want to make sure that you can hear me properly. You can hear me? Okay, good. So I wanted to focus on interchange rates, which is the fee that's charged by the card issuer for the transaction. It's obviously set by the credit card company, and we've heard that throughout this testimony and the testimony of Visa and MasterCard as well. But again, this is the fee charged by the card issuer, and a percentage of that is obviously kept by the card issuer itself. We had MasterCard appear before committee a few meetings ago, and I'm quoting them when I say, we set interchange to maximize participation for our banks to make cards available and for merchants to accept them. Our priority in setting rates is to maintain a balance. MasterCard does not receive interchange revenue. Where it left to merchants, they would want the benefits of card acceptance without paying for it, but that would make card issuance unattractive to banks. And where it up to the banks, they would want high interchange to maximize revenue, but then merchants would not want to accept the cards. I found that testimony to be a little bit disingenuous because we know that merchants obviously will pass on a large percentage, if not all, of the cost of interchange fees to their consumers, to the customers. And when we look at banks, when we look at you guys, again, I don't want to hear in testimony that you don't set the interchange fees. We know that to be true. But I'm looking at the statement that MasterCard made in terms of incentivizing banks to be card issuers. We've heard in testimony that 1.4% is the average interchange fee that's charged. Obviously, that can vary across different products, different banks. But what I wanted to ask is, to the different banks, and we can go in order of the speaking order initially. Do you feel as though the interchange fees could be lowered and card issuance would still be attractive for the banks to engage in?
Thank you for the question. I believe MasterCard's comment about incentivizing banks was because, as I had mentioned previously, to run a credit card business is expensive. We have multiple costs, fraud, systems, rewards, digital,
And I don't want to
etc.
interrupt. I'm sorry to be rude, but we have a short amount of time. I just want to ask, do you feel that interchange fees could be lowered and card issuance can still be attractive in Canada?
I think that if you look at the voluntary commitment that the government and the payment networks have done, they've done 3 of them in the past decade, and we've seen interchange rates come down by, I think, and even this month, there's another one going in that's going to help the majority of small businesses. So I think.
Sorry, I want to ask the other banks the same question as well. Do you feel that
Okay.
interchange rates could go down and card issuance is still attractive?
I would say that that would be a forward-looking statement, and I would be unable to comment on that.
Sure. Mr. Suramani?
Thank you. It's a finely balanced ecosystem, and many factors go into that, making up the receipt and the charge.
Sure. And the other two banks?
I think we would be similar. It depends on the policy objective that you're seeking. Dropping interchange would require us to recalibrate the value propositions for our products.
And then the last bank, I think there's one more.
Yes, my answer would be very similar to what you've
Okay.
already heard.
The reason I ask this is we know that the Reserve Bank of Australia sets the credit card interchange rates at a weighted average benchmark of 0.5% of the transaction value, and there's a ceiling of 0.8%. We know that the US does not regulate this. In the EU, the interchange rate is at 0.3%. The reason I state these figures is because, contrary to what MasterCard said, which is they want to make card issuance attractive for you guys, the credit card companies, the banks in Australia or the EU haven't run away from credit cards and haven't stopped offering credit cards just because interchange fees are obviously much lower than they are here in Canada. It's still attractive for them to engage in card issuance. I also wanted to echo comments from my colleagues around the table that have said that they'd like to see a breakdown of that revenue, what percentage that you make off of interchange fees, what percentage you get to keep. And we keep hearing this in testimony as well, that it's very expensive to engage in this business of issuing credit cards. We'd like to see a breakdown by every single bank of what the actual costs are for participating in credit card issuance, and then what interchange fees you're making off of it. So essentially the cost, the revenues, and then the net profits that you make off of this. You guys are public corporations. Your shares are owned by the Canadian public, and I think they should know the breakdown of your participation in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gerkins. You have 5 minutes.
Hi there. I believe our year-to-date return on equity from the last results was 10.7%.
Thank you for the question. I don't think I'm able to comment on the target for our return on equity. Our actual return on equity would be similar to what Jennifer Douglas just indicated.
Only remember, we target about 16%.
I don't have the exact number at my fingertips. Apologies. I'm sorry, can you clarify the question? From a credit card perspective, we don't disclose down to that granular level, as I mentioned before.
Yes, we don't disclose an ROE for. Thank you for the question. I will say that money laundering is a serious global threat, and our U.S. operation did not maintain an adequate AML program to thwart some criminal activity, and we've taken full responsibility for the failures. And if we are learning from the programs that we're putting into place from the U.S., and our AML program is getting stronger every day. Our U.S. AML program was not sufficient to address the risk aligned to our business activity. We've enhanced governance and controls. We've invested in new talent, training, process redesign, technology implementation, revised policies and procedures. There's more work ahead, and addressing these failures is our top priority. Leadership of our US AML team have the necessary expertise. They're focused on this critical work to enhance our program. Significant work is underway to meet our obligations, including strengthening our governance and structure, improving our policy, risk assessment, enhancements to process and controls, and investments in technology and platforms.
Honorary Member, Mr. Perkins, we are committed to actively maintaining and continuously investing in an effective AML program enterprise-wide to detect, deter, and improve upon what we do. This is among our highest priorities. Financial crimes are increasingly sophisticated. We work with regulators. Yes, we are working very hard.
Yeah, thank you for the question. CIBC has a very strong and comprehensive AML program We do transaction monitoring on all of our cards, all of our credit card applications.
We follow regulatory compliance very strongly, especially AML.
Honorary Member, we are actively and maintaining and investing continuously in improving our AML programs.
We're making continued we take AML very seriously. We're making considerable investments in AML all the time. None of us are.
Thank you for the question. I would say that as an issuer of credit cards, we're focused on designing products as a whole that resonates with our Canadian customers and meeting their needs and expectations. And we have a wide variety of cards that are available, cards that have low rates, cards that have no fees, cards that have low fees, cards that are robust with benefits and rewards. We have sort of a very diverse portfolio roster, up to 15 different card products. So we want all of our customers using products that they feel are right for them. And that's what we work towards doing, is making sure that our customers are sitting on the right products.
Thank you for the question. When we do product pricing, it does consider a range of factors because we have to ensure that we're operating competitively and bringing the best products to our customers.
Remember, the card product is different from other lending products in the sense that it is, you can use it anywhere. It helps, almost grease the wheels of commerce, whether you're tapping at the transit station or whether you're traveling abroad and using it somewhere else, or, there are various benefits associated with cards, and the value, convenience, and choice that is provided to the customer. It's a different product. So, and we kind of make sure, even within the credit cards, we provide that choice to the customer to choose what kind of cards they want based on their needs.
Yeah, similar. I would say that we are in the business of providing advice to our clients, and we want to make sure that our clients are on the right products that meet their needs.
You could have a secured loan on something like a used vehicle, yes.
So I'm not sure I understand the question. Yes, yes, we do.
Hi there. It's not my area, but I do believe that we do.
Similar answer, honorary member, not my area, but I believe we do. Network is MasterCard and Visa. Establishes the rates, yes. And I don't know what you mean by manage, but establish and provide the rates.
So once again, CIBC is not responsible for setting interchange rates or for justifying what those rates are. I would say that businesses benefit from the use of credit cards, and our banks provide authorizations for their confidence and that they will be getting settled on a transaction, and we transfer any risk related to that transaction to the credit card issuer. The merchants also receive a faster checkout line with reduced cash handling time from credit cards. They also are enabled for e-commerce by using credit cards. So there are benefits to businesses for accepting credit cards.
Mr. Savard-Tremblay, the floor is yours. So, listen, am I disturbing someone? I feel like I'm disturbing the colleagues. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, listen, Madame Ferry, I know that you're not responsible of banks' choices, of card issuers' choices. But Visa and MasterCard say that they agreed to lower temporarily their interchange fees for certain merchants. But to benefit from these agreements, the merchants must have a business number under $175,000. So no restaurant, no convenience store will benefit from it. Is it not the proof that we need regulation, as that major card issuers do not take seriously the crisis in food prices?
We adhere to all the regulations appropriate for our business.
Well, perhaps we could go around the table. Other banks share this opinion. You adhere to this, to all this regulation?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
That's what we call unanimity. I would like to ask you a question. I'd like to know if somebody has the information. in countries where the interchange fees are the lowest, this is where there is a strict regulation. United Kingdom, New Zealand, European Union, even though it's not a country, there's an average. Where is Canada in the international classification in terms of interchange fees? Does anyone have the information? I'm sad to see that nobody has this information. What would you think in that case? Anybody wishes to answer can raise their hand. What do you think of a potential regulation which would force merchants to display on each invoice the charges that they have to pay to card issuers for each transaction? On this one, I will not let Mr. McDonald.
I think we'd be very supportive of enhanced transparency, period. I think you have to be thoughtful about how you display that on a receipt. It's a cost not borne by the customer, so that may create some confusion. But I think we're all for creating transparency for the payments value chain, which is what I think we're talking about today.
Very good. I will ask you my next question, since you're the only one who seems to be risking answering those questions. Sir, some issuers are telling us privately that the high interest and high interchange fees are necessary because the lender has a higher risk on this kind of credit. How come banks are ready to issue credit cards to almost anyone, even vulnerable people? Isn't that a predatory behavior in a way?
Thank you for the question. Certainly at Scotiabank, we take extending credit very seriously. We work very closely with customers to make sure that they get the products and services that best meet their needs. There's certainly zero predatory lending or lending to those who cannot afford to pay us back. That would be financially not prudent. But no, we take lending credit very seriously and have good controls around how we do it.
Because we talk with a lot of people and they frequently receive credit card offers, whereas they are overly indebted and we don't understand what the logic here is. And these same people are running after them, offering prime interest rates on credit cards. Could you explain this further?
Thank you for the question. I think we are experiencing a very competitive environment. So I can't speak to those specific offers, but customers have lots of choice in Canada for sources of credit.
Thank you, Mr. Savard-Tremblay. I actually gave you double your time. I wasn't just saying, it wasn't just empty words when I said that I was generous with time.
Hi there. Thanks very much for the question. We do take financial literacy very, very seriously, and we do have data models that would predict customers that may be having challenges. And even before they get to the point where they can't pay, we actually will reach out to them through various channels. And we have various tools that we can work with. Anyone who's having challenges paying their bills, we'll do our best to try to help them make their lives easier. Well, we would ask them first of all what their situation is and try to understand. And we do have a list of things we can do for them, and some of them are lower interest rates.
Yes, we also proactively notify or call clients that we think may be starting to have challenges. So we do proactively reach out to determine and talk to them about their situation and potentially move them to a different solution that would best meet their needs.
Similarly, we at RBC, have different options that available.
Yes, we would help customers with interest rate reductions or product switches to best suit their needs.
Yeah, it's very similar. We have programs in place.
Yeah, I understand notice was given, so you may move your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That in the light of the recent report that Rogers Communications is attempting to price gouge Canadians by failing to honor the original intent of TV and internet service contracts signed by its customers, and recognize that this exploitive behavior unfairly impacts Canadians, the committee pursuant to Standing Order 1082 invite Rogers Communications Chief Officer Tony Stafari to appear before the committee for a minimum of 2 hours by November 1st, 2024, to explain how the company intends to rectify the situation, and the report of this meeting be prepared and presented to the House.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. So, sorry, Miss. I'm so used to Mr. Perkins bringing motions.
I don't mind.
On autopilot. Mr. Massé, thank you for bringing this motion and moving it today. So it's on the floor right now. Do I have any person on the list to speak to it? No? No, Mr. Perkins.
Wouldn't mind proposing a supplemental, but I don't want to drag this out. And that we add the Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs for Rogers, Navdeep Bains, to the list.
So that would be an amendment. So you're moving the amendment, Mr. Perkins?
Yeah, but only if it doesn't prolong.
Sorry, Chair, a point of order. I can't hear anything that Mr. Perkins is saying.
Sorry.
So, Mr. Perkins, do you want to repeat the amendment?
Sure.
But I understand if I don't see consensus, Mr. Perkins, you're not moving the amendment. Okay. So have everyone heard the amendment proposed by Mr. Perkins? Is there some form of consensus? No, I don't see consensus around the table on the amendment. So then I'll consider that you haven't moved your amendment, Mr. Perkins, if that's fine with you. And we're back to the motion. And on the motion itself presented by Mr. Massé, I see everyone nodding in agreement. So we'll do our best with the clerk to try to get this done before November 1st. But November 1st is right around the corner. So allow me maybe some flexibility in scheduling, but we'll do our utmost.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Trust your judgment on this. And so it's not a hard date if you need to make the adjustments.
Thank you very much, MP Massé. So that's dealt with. I am amazed by the efficiency of members on this, and I appreciate it a great deal. And now it's all Neo. Thank you, Mr. Badaway. So we'll now turn it over to MP Chambers. Welcome to the committee, and the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Chair, I was struck by some earlier testimony with respect to Interac fees in exchange with my colleague, Ms. Garner. Mr. Seromani, just want to confirm, it's true that volume-based pricing occurs at Interac, but can you just confirm that it is 6 cents, that the largest tier of volume transaction is 6 cents that banks are charged to a fee to Interac for an e-transfer?
Honorary member, I don't have that information. I'm not able to confirm.
Sure, you're on the board of Interac, are you not?
The board does not discuss pricing matters.
Sir, you don't discuss your pricing of e-transfers. So do you stand by volume-based pricing then?
Honorary member, as I said before, any transaction that is of large scale like this, whether it is and it involves large scale processing, whether it be credit cards or debit cards or e-transfers or statements or anything, typically service providers would have tiered pricing. I'm not aware of the exact pricing that Interac charges.
Thank you for that testimony. I guess what I'm struggling to understand is the highest tier based on the volume pricing by Interac, on the information that I have, is that the largest institutions pay Interac 6 cents for a transaction, and the smallest institutions pay 43 cents a transaction. That seems like a very wide chargeback difference between large and small institutions, and I'm trying to understand why that might be the case.
Remember, I'm not aware of the pricing matrix that Interac has.
Okay, so you are aware, though, sir, that we could ask for that fee disclosure?
I'm sure you can ask Interac. I don't have access to that.
Well, maybe it's worth pushing on this a little bit more, because if the large financial institutions charge a receiver and a sender $1.50 each, and there's $3 of gross revenue going into the system, and the largest institution only pays 6 cents for that transaction, that sounds like a lot of gross margin to me. So do you support moving to uniform pricing that does not discriminate based on the size of the institution at Interac?
And remember, today I'm not able to comment on the economics of e-transfer pricing and transactions.
Okay. So, this is exactly what's wrong with the entire payment space. By the way, my understanding is that when this volume price scheme was implemented, that there were only 2 financial institutions that met the highest volume threshold. That is Toronto Dominion, TD, and RBC. And lo and behold, who was the co-chair of Interac's board at the time that these volume-based pricing schemes was implemented? TD and RBC. And then you wonder why there's a slowing and a delay in real-time payments. Is it because that there is an inherent conflict of interest on the board of Interac, that they don't want to move away from volume-based pricing and to give smaller financial institutions an opportunity to compete on a fair level? Do you believe you're in a conflict of interest, sir, in your role at Interac?
Remember, Interac is a independent entity with an independent board, independent board members.
An independent entity with board members that are made up of its customers. Isn't that correct?
So if I may, Interac board members, I think it's available on their website. You'll have they have
yes, sir.
Independent
it's available
board
on the
members.
website. I saw your name. I saw your name there. I guess what I'm pointing out is the inherent conflict of interest that exists by having the customers of Interac sit on the board to set the pricing that disadvantages lower or smaller entities. So I guess final question, sir. I appreciate you for being here today and being in the hot seat. But final question: would you support? You're an independent member of the board of Interac. Would you support forcing the banks to divest of their ownership of Interac?
Honorary member, firstly, I just wanted to address your earlier point. The board does not set pricing matters, and there's an independent committee of the board by independent members, and we don't discuss pricing at the board. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I think Interac is a unique Canadian financial institution, and over the years it's been innovative and brought various fantastic payment products into the market. And we're all proud of what Interac has accomplished, and I think they will continue to do more.
Thank you. I believe I'm over my time, but I think we'll be sending the competition commissioner the transcript of today's testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Your contribution to the committee has been greatly appreciated today. Thank you. Mr. Turnbull, the floor is yours.
Okay. So thanks again to the witnesses. Our government recently negotiated an agreement with credit card companies to lower the interchange fees by up to 27%. I wanted to ask the panelists today who are joining us if they acknowledge that that would save merchants money. Could I ask RBC to start? Will that save merchants money?
Remember, I believe the undertaking was to bring down the interchange for a particular type, size of merchants. Yes, it would save them money.
Okay, and CIBC?
Yes, I think it would save money for small businesses.
Thank you. And Scotiabank?
I would agree. Small businesses are saving money.
Okay, great. I'm going to take it that all of you will agree with that. I think it makes sense. So do you support the lowering of those interchange fees given the fact that merchants would save money? That's a thing that our government, you've all said that you do not set the interchange fees, that credit card companies do that, or the networks do that, as you call them. So you would support the lowering of those interchange fees then? I'll go to CIBC first.
We are supportive of the assistance that has been provided to small businesses through the interchange undertaking.
Excellent. And Bank of Montreal?
Similarly, we're happy that the small businesses are able to have lower interchange rates.
Okay. Royal Bank?
Similar response. Honorary member, we are happy to see the small merchants benefit.
Is that the case? Does anyone not agree with the fact that that was a good thing for small businesses and that you support it? So I'll take it that you all agree. Okay, that's great. So I guess if we continue to negotiate further decreases to those interchange fees, you wouldn't have any issue with it, which is great to hear. I also wanted to ask you another line of questioning here, which is that when inflation was sky high and the Bank of Canada decided to increase interest rates to get a hold of inflation, your fees and the structure of your fees seem to respond extremely quickly. I must say, like your fees and interest rates were very, very responsive to those changes. And yet we know that inflation has come down now to 1.6%. Bank of Canada has cut rates 4 times. The latest one, 50 basis points, is now at 3.75%, which is great news for Canadians. But what relief and how are you responding in kind? And I'm remarking here on the incredible asymmetry I see between the response rate as the interest rates go up, and then when they come down, the response rate seems to be very slow. In fact, my constituents, many of them have said to me that if they don't call the bank and fight with the bank, that they won't see any of those rate cuts immediately with regards to their products. So what are you doing to help Canadians out at a time where now finally they're getting some relief from the central bank rate cuts? So I'll go to, I keep starting with RBC, apologize for that. There's no bias here. TD Bank, I'll start with Ms. McKee.
Yeah, I'm not sure what products you might be referring to that you're seeing rates kind of responding quickly. Our products in the credit card space tend to be sort of fixed rate, and we would look at those products and the set of benefits and services and features kind of as a whole on a regular basis, according to product line strategy management. And we're focused on designing products that resonate with Canadian consumers. So as needs and expectations change and evolve, we modify our products.
Well, Ms. McKee, I was referring to fixed and variable rate mortgages, both of which have not responded as quickly as one would expect, according to my constituents. I'm asking you whether you're doing anything to restructure fees, knowing full well that the cost of capital is coming down from the central bank rate cuts. So can you remark on where you're responding and how, as a bank, you're offering Canadians some relief? And you could offer it in your credit card line, but it doesn't seem like that's an option given the fact that you won't even disclose how much profit you're making from that line of business.
So I can't speak to real estate secured lending. That's not my area. That sits elsewhere in the bank. I can say for credit cards, we have many programs in place to help support our customers if they're struggling with paying their bills. We have proactive services called TD Helps, Ready Advice Center. We mine our base looking for signs of stress and proactively reach out to help restructure debt, debt consolidation activity, moving to a more appropriate product. It's a very robust program.
How about Scotiabank, Mr. McDonald? Could you help me out here and give me a straightforward answer, please?
On unsecured lines of credit, we moved quickly with the Bank of Canada rate decrease, which Canadians are feeling and benefiting from. As per my colleagues mentioned, credit cards, we manage at the portfolio level. So we have all those tools to make sure that we help customers who are feeling distressed, that they get the support and the advice that they need.
Okay, last question, Chair. I know multiple witnesses have asked for a breakdown of your credit card services, both the cost and revenues. I'd like to ask you officially for that information. You could provide it in writing to the committee. I'm going to go just to each very quickly. Will you agree, Mr. Sourmani, to provide that information to the committee in writing at a later date?
Honorable Member, it's commercially sensitive information, and we don't disclose it today. I would not be able to provide you an immediate answer.
I'm going to assume that all of the banks will be with a similar response. Please shake your head if that would be your standard response. Okay. Thank you very much.
In any event, Mr. Turnbull, along your line of questionings, I'll be sending as chair, given I've heard from all parties the ask for a little more information about the pricing mechanism that our witnesses have in their respective institutions. So I'll be sending a letter with the clerk, and then I guess the legal teams at the various banks will be responding, and then we'll see how we end the list as a parliamentary committee. Mr. Perkins,
just
briefly.
On that, thank you. That's a good letter. Could we make sure we ask for the return on equity percentages, the information that MP Turnbull asked for, and could we also ask for the Interac fee schedule?
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. We will. So expect this correspondance from us. Mesdames et messieurs les témoins, merci beaucoup de vous être joints à nous aujourd'hui.
Ladies and gentlemen, witnesses, thank you so much for having joined us today. Thank you, dear colleagues.